The spaceship appeared without warning on a clear summer day. One moment the sky over Seoul was empty, and the next a massive dark vessel hung above the city like a metallic cloud. Commander Ji-woo Park was reviewing security protocols at the military base when the first reports came in. "Commander, you need to see this," her assistant said, voice shaking. On the monitor, the alien ship hovered directly above Seoul Central Park where children played, oblivious to the danger. Among them was Minho, Ji-woo's 8-year-old son, kicking a soccer ball with his friends. Ji-woo's blood turned cold. "Get me transport to the park now." By the time her helicopter approached the area, crowds had gathered. Parents were pointing upward, some screaming, others frozen in shock. The alien vessel had opened what appeared to be bay doors on its underside. "Land immediately," Ji-woo ordered the pilot. Before they could touch down, beams of bright blue light shot from the ship, targeting specific children in the park. Ji-woo watched in horror as Minho was caught in one of these beams. His small body lifted off the ground, soccer ball falling forgotten as he rose toward the ship. "No!" she screamed, but her voice was lost in the chaos. 11 other children across the park were caught in similar beams, all around the same age as Minho, all rising toward the alien vessel. Parents ran forward, trying to grab their children's feet, but the force of the beams pushed them back. Ji-woo jumped from the helicopter before it landed and ran toward her son. "Minho!" she called out. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Fear mixed with confusion on his young face as he drifted higher. Military jets scrambled in the distance, but everyone knew they would be too late. The children disappeared into the ship, the bay doors closed, and the vessel began to rise. Global communication systems suddenly activated. On every screen, radio, and device around the world, a message played in each country's language. "We have claimed our tribute. Do not pursue." The world erupted in panic. News stations showed similar abductions happening in 12 major cities across the globe. Always children, always the same age. At an emergency United Nations meeting that evening, representatives from affected countries pounded tables and made threats. But against what? Where would they direct their missiles? How would they fight an enemy with such advanced technology? Ji-woo sat quietly in the back of the room, her uniform rumpled, eyes red from tears she refused to shed in public. When the shouting reached its peak, she stood. "Fighting among ourselves won't bring our children back," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We need to go after them." The room fell silent. "That's impossible," someone finally said. "We don't have the technology." "Then we build it," Ji-woo replied. "They left behind traces of their technology in each abduction site. My scientists are already studying the energy signatures." For the first time in human history, countries began sharing their most guarded military secrets and research. China offered its quantum computing advances. Russia shared its propulsion systems. The United States contributed AI technology. Within weeks, labs around the world were working together on what they called Operation Reclamation. Ji-woo was unanimously chosen to lead the mission. Her military background combined with her personal stake made her the perfect choice. No one would fight harder to find these children. 3 months after the abduction, Ji-woo stood in Minho's bedroom, touching his favorite stuffed tiger. On his desk sat a half-finished science project about space exploration. He always wanted to see the stars, she whispered to herself. Not like this. Her phone beeped with a message from Dr. Do-Yeon Kim, the lead scientist on the reverse engineering. "Team breakthrough, come immediately." At the lab, scientists gathered around a small device salvaged from the energy field left behind by the alien beam. "It's a translation module," Dr. Kim explained. "We've decoded part of their language and discovered something important. They call themselves the Thraxian Empire. They've ruled large portions of the galaxy for thousands of years." "Why take our children?" Ji-woo asked. "Genetic sampling," another scientist said. "Their species appears to be facing some kind of genetic decline. Human children have something they need." Ji-woo's hands tightened into fists. "How soon can we go after them?" "Building ships with this technology will take time," Dr. Kim admitted. "Years, perhaps." "We don't have years," Ji-woo said. looking at the star map they had extracted from the device. Every day our children spend with them is too long. That night, as nations formerly at war with each other pooled resources and knowledge, Jiwoo made a promise to the stars. Hold on, Minho. Mother is coming for you. And when I find these Thraxians, they'll learn what happens when they take a child from humanity. She didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning of humanity's first steps into a much larger, more dangerous universe. 5 years passed since the children were taken. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Old enemies now worked side by side. Countries that once pointed missiles at each other now shared technology and resources, all with one goal: to reach the stars and find their stolen children. Admiral Jiwoo Park stood on the observation deck of the massive underground facility in what was once the Gobi Desert. Below her, thousands of workers assembled the final pieces of humanity's first true starship. They had named it HSS Prometheus. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Do-Yun Kim as he joined her at the window. His hair had turned completely gray in the past 5 years. Day and night work with alien technology had taken its toll. "Will it fly?" Jiwoo asked simply. "Better than fly," Kim said with a tired smile. "The drive system we copied from their technology will take us beyond our solar system. We can reach where we believe their empire begins in just under 7 months." Jiwoo nodded. Every night for 5 years she had looked at the stars and wondered which one Minho might be orbiting. Was he still alive? Did he remember her? Did he know they were coming for him? "Admiral," a young assistant called from the doorway. "The final test results are ready." In the main lab, screens showed data from the last test of their new weapon systems. These weren't designed just for research. The Prometheus was built for war. "The neural disruptor works perfectly," said the weapons chief. "Based on what we learned from the Thraxian technology, their entire species shares a connected neural network. It's their strength, but also their weakness." Dr. Kim pointed to a simulation on the main screen. "They think as one mind spread across billions of bodies. This gives them incredible coordination, but makes them vulnerable to the unexpected. They've never encountered a species like humans before, unpredictable, creative, sometimes irrational. Our greatest weakness is now our greatest strength," Jiwoo said. That night, as Jiwoo packed the few personal items she would take to space, she found an old photo of Minho. He was missing his front teeth in the picture, grinning widely after winning a school science prize. He would be 13 now. Would she even recognize him? Launch day arrived with little fanfare. The world watched in silence as the Prometheus and 6 smaller vessels rose from their hidden bases around the planet. No cheering crowds, no celebrations. This was not an exploration mission. This was a rescue operation, and, if necessary, a war. Jiwoo addressed the crews of all 7 ships from the Prometheus Command Center. 5 years ago, an alien empire took what was not theirs. They believed we were primitive, weak, divided. They were wrong. Today we show them what happens when humanity unites. We are going to find our children and bring them home. 3 months. Into their journey, they detected an unusual signal. It wasn't Thraxian based on their limited knowledge of alien technology. The signal led them to a small rocky planet orbiting a red dwarf star. "Sensors detect artificial structures," reported the science officer, "and life forms, but not Thraxian." A landing party, including Jiwoo, made first contact with the Krell, a species that looked like humanoid squids. Through their translation technology, they learned the Krell had been conquered by the Thraxian Empire 300 years ago. "You fight the Empire?" the Krell leader asked in disbelief. "No one fights the Empire and lives." "They took our children," Jiwoo said simply. "We will get them back or die trying." The Krell leader studied her for a long moment. Perhaps you are the ones from the prophecy, the ones who come from beyond to break the cycle." When shown images of Earth's children, the Krell confirmed they had seen similar humans. "They are kept on Bastion Prime, the heart of the Empire. No one has ever breached its defenses." "Where is this Bastion Prime?" Jiwoo asked. The Krell showed them star maps of the Empire, far larger than humans had imagined. Hundreds of star systems, under Thraxian control. Bastion Prime lay at the center, heavily guarded. "This changes nothing," Jiwoo told her crew later. "The distance doesn't matter. The size of their empire doesn't matter. We keep going." That night, Dr. Kim called Jiwoo to his lab with excitement in his voice she hadn't heard in years. "I've done it," he said, pointing to a complex simulation. "I've found their fatal weakness. Their neural network requires complete uniformity of thought. They literally cannot comprehend true randomness or chaos." He pulled up another screen showing brainwave patterns. "These are human thought patterns. No logic to them, jumping from idea to idea. If we could somehow introduce this into their network." Jiwoo stared at the screen, hope rising in her chest for the first time in 5 years. "So we don't need to outgun them." "No," Kim said with a smile. "We just need to outthink them." The alliance between humans and the Krell was just the beginning. After their meeting, Admiral Jiwoo Park called a meeting of all ship captains aboard the Prometheus. The vast command center hummed with activity as officers from 7 starships gathered around the central holographic display. "The Thraxian Empire is much larger than we expected," Jiwoo said, pointing to the glowing map. "We cannot defeat them with force alone." Lieutenant Dasum Kang, their chief diplomat, stepped forward. Her quick mind had helped form their first contact protocols with the Krell. "The Krell are not the only species suffering under Thraxian rule," Dasum said. "Our scans have detected at least 15 inhabited systems within range. Many show signs of advanced technology but limited space travel. Prisoners in their own solar systems." Dr. Do-Yoon Kim nodded. "Just like the Krell." Jiwoo studied the star map. "Then we need to build a coalition. If we approach each species separately, we can form an alliance against the Empire." The plan seemed impossible. The Thraxians had ruled for thousands of years. Why would anyone risk joining humans, newcomers with limited technology? "Because we offer something no one has had in generations," Jiwoo said simply. "Hope." Their first diplomatic mission beyond the Krell was to the Vakari, a species with 4 arms and skin like polished copper. When the human delegation entered their meeting hall, the Vakari leaders fell to their knees. "The prophecy speaks truth," whispered the Vakari elder. "Those who come from beyond the darkness will break the chain of stars." Dasam looked at Jiwoo in surprise. This was the second mention of a prophecy. Later, they discovered similar legends among many conquered species. Stories of outsiders who would one day arrive to challenge the Empire. "They weren't expecting us specifically," Dr. Kim explained, "but they needed something to believe in. Hope is powerful." Within 2 months, representatives from 7 different species had secretly visited the Prometheus. Each brought valuable knowledge about Thraxian technology, patrol routes, and weaknesses. The biggest breakthrough came from the Centi, a species with technology that allowed them to communicate across vast distances instantly. "Our ancestors hid this technology when the Thraxians came," explained Juan, the Centi engineer. "They would have taken it and used it to control their empire more efficiently." Dr. Kim's eyes widened as he studied the device. "This quantum communications system is beyond anything we have. It would allow our fleet to coordinate attacks across multiple systems simultaneously. The Thraxians rely on standard communications," Jiwoo realized, "which means there's a delay. We could be 3 steps ahead of them." The human fleet grew as allied species contributed ships, weapons, and resources. What had begun as 7 human vessels became a fleet of 23 ships of various designs and capabilities. Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as engineers from 5 different species worked together to integrate the new quantum communication devices. "This is more than an alliance," she said quietly to Dr. Kim. "It's becoming a movement, a revolution," he agreed. Their growing fleet faced its first real test when a Thraxian patrol discovered them near the Centi homeworld. 3 massive Empire ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path. "Surrender immediately," came the translated command. "Resistance is—" I know," Jiwoo interrupted over the communication channel. Resistance is futile. Your species needs new material. The Thraxian commander seemed stunned by the casual response. In those few seconds of confusion, the human fleet executed a combat maneuver no algorithm could have predicted. Instead of fleeing or forming a defensive position, the ships scattered in seemingly random directions, only to regroup and attack from multiple angles simultaneously. The Thraxian ships tried to adapt, but they relied on shared tactical knowledge and predictable responses. Faced with human improvisation and the chaotic battle plan, they were outmatched. When the fight ended 30 minutes later, 2 Thraxian vessels had been disabled and 1 captured intact. Their neural network is remarkable, Dr. Kim said as he examined the Thraxian ship systems. But it's also their greatest weakness. They think collectively, which makes them incredibly efficient but unable to handle true randomness. The real prize was the ship's database. Once decrypted, it revealed something unexpected about the children. They're being kept in a research facility on Bastion Prime, Jiwoo said, studying the information. But they're not being harmed. They're being studied. Further data revealed the truth. The Thraxian Empire was facing extinction. Their species had become so interconnected through their neural network that genetic diversity had collapsed. Without fresh genetic material to study, they would die out within 3 generations. They're desperate, Dasam said. But that doesn't justify taking children from their homes. Jiwoo touched the screen showing the layout of Bastion Prime, the fortress at the heart of the Empire. No, it doesn't. And now we know exactly where they've taken them. As their alliance grew stronger, so did their ability to hide from Thraxian sensors. The quantum communication system allowed them to coordinate across vast distances without detection. In the quiet moments between planning sessions, Jiwoo would stare at the stars. Somewhere out there was Minho, now 13 years old. Did he still remember his mother? Did he know she was coming for him? We'll find him, Dr. Kim said, joining her on the observation deck. We're close now. Jiwoo nodded. After we do, the real fight begins. We're not just rescuing our children anymore, we're freeing a galaxy. The alliance had grown to include 13 species, all united behind a single goal: to break the chains of an empire that had ruled for thousands of years and to create something new in its place. Bastion Prime loomed before them like a dark star. The massive space station orbited no planet, existing instead at the exact center of the Thraxian Empire. Admiral Jiwoo Park studied the structure through the view screen of their small stealth ship. It's even bigger than the plans showed, she whispered. Beside her, Lieutenant Huan checked the readings on his scanner. The outer shield is exactly where the Krell intelligence said it would be. We should be able to slip through at the maintenance port. Their team was small, just 5 people. Jiwoo had chosen them carefully. Dr. Do-hyun Kim with his knowledge of Thraxian technology, Lieutenant Huan and his expertise in security systems, Lieutenant Dasam with her gift for languages, and Tai-hyun, a weapons specialist whose steady hands had saved them in 3 previous battles. Remember, Jiwoo said as they prepared to board, our mission is to find the children and locate the neural network core. We plant the device, rescue our children and leave. No heroics. They all nodded, but they knew the risks. No one had ever broken into Bastion Prime and lived to tell about it. The maintenance port was guarded by automated systems rather than living Thraxians. Dr. Kim used the codes they had taken from a captured ship to bypass the first layer of security. The second layer required a genetic scan. For this, they had prepared a special solution containing Thraxian DNA. It's working, Kim whispered, as the massive door began to slide open. Inside, they found themselves in an enormous waste processing center. The smell was terrible, but it meant no guards would be stationed nearby. According to the plans, Juan said, checking his small computer, the children should be held 3 levels up in the research wing. They moved through dark maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where Thraxians would be present. Thanks to the adaptive camouflage technology they wore, they would appear as maintenance units to any casual observer or camera. When they reached the research level, they encountered their first real challenge. 2 Thraxian guards stood outside a sealed door marked with symbols that meant Special research. That's it, Daesam translated. That's where they're keeping them. Jiwoo considered their options. A direct attack would alert the entire station. But there was no way around the guards. Suddenly, the door opened from inside. A tall Thraxian in a white coat stepped out, speaking to the guards. As the door began to close, Juan pressed a button on his wrist. The tiny device he had brought shot forward, sliding through the narrowing gap just before it sealed. "Now we wait," he said. 3 minutes later, their communicators beeped. The device had worked, looping the security cameras inside the research area. "The door will open in 5 seconds, Juan said. "Be ready." When the door slid open, they moved quickly, stunning the 2 guards with silent electric pulses. Inside, they found not a prison as they had expected, but something more like a school. There were comfortable living quarters, learning stations, and even areas for recreation. And there were the children. Now teenagers, 24 of them from various countries on Earth. They looked up in shock as the team entered. "We're from Earth," Jiwoo said, removing her helmet. "We've come to take you home." A tall boy stepped forward. His face had changed, but Jiwoo would know those eyes anywhere. "Minho, her son." "Mother?" he asked, his voice deeper than she remembered. There was no time for the reunion she had dreamed of for 5 years. Other Thraxians could arrive at any moment. "We need to move quickly," she said, fighting back tears. "Grab only what you need." But Minho shook his head. "We can't just leave. Not yet. We've been working on something." He led them to a hidden panel in the wall of what appeared to be a game room. Behind it was a small laboratory filled with equipment the teenagers had secretly assembled. "They've been studying us, but we've been studying them too," Minho explained. "Their neural network isn't just their communication system, it's their weakness." Dr. Kim examined the teenagers' work with growing amazement. "This is brilliant. You've mapped their entire neural frequency." "We can't leave yet," Minho insisted. "We need to access the central core. It's 10 levels down." Jiwoo faced a terrible choice. Their escape window was narrow. Adding a second objective greatly increased their risk. "Why?" she asked her son. "Why risk everything when we can escape now?" "Because they'll just take more children," Minho said firmly. "From Earth or somewhere else, they're desperate. Their species is dying. But we found a solution that doesn't require kidnapping." Jiwoo looked at her team, then back at her son. The boy she had come to save was now speaking with the confidence of a leader. "The central core," she decided. "But we move fast. Show us the way." As they prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. On the monitors, they could see squadrons of Thraxian guards mobilizing. "They found the unconscious guards," Taehyun said, checking his weapons. "Then we fight our way through," Jiwoo replied. "We've come too far to turn back now." Alarms blared as Jiwoo and her team led the human teenagers through the narrow corridors of Bastion Prime. Minho moved with confidence, guiding them down service passages that weren't on any official maps. "How do you know these routes?" Dr. Kim asked the boy. "We've had 5 years to explore," Minho answered simply. "The Thraxians never thought we would try to escape. Why would we? There's nowhere to go." They reached a massive door marked with warning symbols. Beyond it lay the central neural network core, the heart of the Thraxian Empire. "This door requires special access," Lieutenant Juan said, examining the control panel. "I can't bypass it with our equipment." "You don't need to," said a girl named Yunha who had been taken from Busan. She pulled a small card from her pocket. "I took this from a scientist 3 days ago. He still doesn't know it's missing." The door slid open to reveal a chamber larger than they had imagined. In the center floated a massive crystal structure pulsing with light and energy. Thousands of thin cables stretched from it in all directions, disappearing into the walls. "The neural network core," Dr. Kim whispered in awe. "The entire Empire's shared consciousness flows through this. And this is where we upload the chaos." "Algorithm," Jiwoo said, removing a small device from her pack. But before they could approach the core, the main doors on the opposite side of the chamber slid open. Dozens of Thraxian guards poured in, weapons raised. Behind them walked a taller Thraxian wearing ornate armor. The Supreme Commander, Minho whispered. The Thraxian leader's voice boomed through the chamber's translation system. Humans of Earth, you have shown resourcefulness beyond what we expected, but your journey ends here. Take cover, Jiwoo shouted as the guards opened fire. The team scattered, ducking behind equipment panels. Taehyun returned fire, creating a defensive position while Dr. Kim worked frantically to connect their device to a control terminal. I need 2 minutes, he called out. You don't have 2 minutes, the Supreme Commander replied, his voice eerily calm. Surrender the children, and your people may leave with your lives. Jiwoo looked across the room at her son, who had taken shelter behind a power conduit. Minho caught her eye and tapped his wrist, then pointed to several other teenagers, who had spread throughout the chamber. They each held small devices similar to watches. Jiwoo understood. During their 5 years of captivity, the children hadn't just been studying the Thraxians, they had been preparing. Now, she shouted. Minho and 5 other teenagers activated their devices simultaneously. The effect was immediate and stunning. The Thraxian guards froze, their weapons dropping as they clutched their heads in pain. Even the Supreme Commander staggered, his voice distorting. What is this? He gasped. We call it the Discord pattern, Minho explained, stepping forward. Simple human brainwave patterns, but completely random. To your neural network, it's like static. Dr. Kim seized the moment, connecting their device to the terminal. Uploading chaos algorithm now. The crystal structure in the center of the room began to pulse erratically, its smooth blue light fracturing into chaotic patterns of red and white. Throughout Bastion Prime, and indeed across the entire empire, Thraxians stumbled and fell as their shared consciousness fractured. For the first time in thousands of years, they experienced individual thought. The Supreme Commander had recovered enough to speak, though his movements were uncoordinated. You don't understand what you've done. You've destroyed us. No, Minho said, approaching the fallen leader. We've freed you. Your species is dying because your neural network forces complete uniformity. No variation, no adaptation, no evolution. Jiwoo joined her son, standing tall before the Supreme Commander. You have a choice now. Continue as you have been and face extinction, or work with us and find a new way forward. In that moment, something remarkable happened across the empire. As the chaos algorithm spread through the network, Thraxians began to experience something they had forgotten generations ago: individual choice. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species watched in amazement as their Thraxian overseers suddenly stopped functioning as a unit. Some fought among themselves, confused and frightened. Others simply sat down, overwhelmed by their first experience of solitary thought. Aboard Bastion Prime, doors opened throughout the research sectors as control systems failed. Other captive species, children taken from worlds across the galaxy, emerged from their quarters to find their guards disoriented and lost. In the central chamber, the Supreme Commander looked at the humans with new understanding. You could have killed us all, he said slowly. Why didn't you? Because that's not who we are, Jiwoo answered. We came for our children, but we found something larger, a chance to build something new. 6 months later, representatives from 37 species gathered on Earth. Among them were several Thraxians, now speaking as individuals rather than as parts of a collective. The new Galactic Council's first act was to establish rules against the taking of children from any world. In a quiet moment during the celebration, Minho found the young Thraxian who had once been his primary researcher. This is for you, he said, handing her a data crystal. It contains the genetic solution your people need, created without requiring abduction or experimentation. The Thraxian took it with trembling hands. Why would you help us after what we did? Minho looked out at the stars visible through the council chamber's vast windows. Because that's the greatest strength humans have. Not our technology or our weapons, but our ability to forgive and move forward. The Thraxian bowed deeply. We will remember this mercy when our children study history. That, said Minho with a smile, is all we ask.